the announcement from President Trump yesterday that taking Tylenol is associated with a increased chance or risk of autism, and it is making the rounds all over social media. And of course, here in Canada, our mainstream media and their parroted TV doctors, as well as some of our ministers of health, have chimed in, denouncing Trump as anti-science, and all the rhetoric that we hear them typically claim against Trump for just simply saying, maybe Tylenol's not so great. Only take it if you're being advised by your doctor. Well, here, you don't have to take it from me. We have, I don't know, we don't have to play the whole clip, but it's about a minute and a half of what Trump said himself yesterday.
Tylenol during pregnancy can be associated with a very increased risk of autism. So taking Tylenol is not good. All right, I'll say it.
Yeah,
it's not good.
So there you go. He says it's not good, and then he says maybe go consult with your doctor. And I mean, I would say that's pretty tepid advice for anybody. Maybe just pharmaceutical products, if you really need them, they're there for you. But if you don't, you can avoid it. Maybe it's best to do that, especially in pregnancy. And if you're wondering, if you have more questions, go talk to your doctor. And then I just wanted to share here, maybe this will tie in, maybe this can just be our daily dose of cringe, because the other one I thought was just a little bit too grotesque. This is Josie Osborne, who I never even knew existed, but she's the British Columbia Minister of Health. So she's here posting to X and says, as BC's Minister of Health, I look south with dismay and concern. Powerful figures pushing junk science, claiming Tylenol causes autism. So he actually didn't claim that just right off the bat. This puts everyone at risk. So here's the hate speech that the Liberals are going to try to criminalize. Yep. Misleading families is dangerous. Science matters. Evidence matters. People deserve better than conspiracy theories. And I just reposted this and I said, why aren't Canadian health ministers following the science? Because it's not actually hard to find the science that shows that prolonged or frequent use of acetaminophen, which is the active ingredient in Tylenol, during pregnancy is associated with higher rates of neurodevelopmental disorders in children. And I quote in there, Yale research study, an article from the Yale School of Public Health. And it's conveniently not there anymore. Wow. Okay. So they've removed that link from the Yale School of Public Health. It was about the research. You can still see at least I can still see the URL. So the URL was what the research says about autism and Tylenol use during pregnancy. And in there, they quote one of their professors who's working on groundbreaking research and diving into this association to try to either, prove or dispel it. And so I have some quotes from him in the article I wrote. I'm really glad I pulled out those quotes because I guess they've removed the article. I'm going to have to dig up on the Wayback Machine and see if I can find it. But one of the quotes from that link that has now mysteriously disappeared said frequent or, as I quoted already, frequent and prolonged. And I'm just going to pull up my article about it because I also quoted him. And I don't know if we can show it on the screen quickly, but he said, though they caution that these observational studies are far from conclusive, this professor conducting the extensive research into Tylenol use during pregnancy relayed that studies do show associations between frequent use of Tylenol in pregnancy and some negative effects on a child's neurodevelopment, and that these associations need to be thoroughly evaluated.
Sure. And this is an incredible development within the sphere of public health, because Tylenol is recommended to women in pregnancy. And as a matter of fact, it's one of the only drugs that a postpartum woman, so a woman who has just given birth in a hospital, has full access to without a nurse, okay? Because the nurses say, Well, if our buzzer was rung every time somebody needed a Tylenol, then that's all that we would ever do. And so Tylenol is meted out to pregnant and postnatal women like candy. And if what we are discovering is that either the Tylenol itself has the potential to harm babies and children, or if Tylenol, when given to when given when prescribed to treat the side effects of childhood immunizations, makes those harms worse, well, then every parent in the entire world needs to know about it. And this has been the prevailing treatment plan for mothers and babies for the last, what, 50 years, Tamara? And we're
Yeah.
just getting around to taking a real good hard look at it. That they took down that article, Tamara.
I found it.
Okay, you did.
I found it. So thank you so much to the Wayback Machine archive.org. You can find a lot of things. And I usually try to make sure that I save those kinds of links, but I was
Sure.
like, it's Yale, it's the Yale School of Public
It's
Health.
gonna
It's been up
stay.
for
They're
like,
not gonna take it down, and look what happened.
and look
So
what they
this is
did. So
this is
here it
this
is.
is
You can
the medical community trying to quickly bury
their own research.
Sure, just insane.
My goodness. So anyway,
Okay,
now it makes me want to make sure that all of you read this article now
Sure.
that they've tried to remove it and change the hyperlink so you can't find it easily anymore. But anyway, for anyone, I did pull out what I thought was the key kind of sentiment of the article was that we need to look at these associations. And there is a professor who's conducting that research. And he's quoted in this article as saying it's something that we need to look further into. So yeah, I would say take the advice you're receiving from Canada's state broadcaster and their TV doctors with a grain of salt and look at some of the research yourself, because observational studies, although they aren't necessarily the gold standard of scientific data and safety testing, they definitely provide a good glean into what we should be looking further into. And so when several observational studies are finding the same thing, and it doesn't necessarily mean autism, but anything neurodevelopmental, that is things like Asperger's, autism, other random, learning behaviors, developmental delays, neurological concerns. Like these are things that can devastate an entire life. And we should definitely be looking more into it if there is that association. So
without question. I mean, without question. So to challenge the prevailing narrative, though, we know how hard that is. Look at what's happened, especially in Canada and Australia, with the gender affirming care model, and how slowly they are to disassociate from an obviously awful and probably the biggest medical scandal of our time. Look how slowly they move on this. Well, Tylenol has got some very, very deep pockets, okay? And they've got some big advertising dollars. So they're not going to go quietly into the dark night. They're going to fight this tooth and nail. But I think that all of us can admit that, even like, I know that I'm a little bit older than most of you. Okay, I'm an 83-year-old woman, but back in the olden days,
no,
we didn't have the amount of kids with autism that we do today. We can all just look around and say, my goodness, where did this come from? And to ask that question is a noble question, and to try and chase down the cause of autism in Western society is very important. So no matter what they try and do, we need to keep an eye on this. We need to keep an eye on this.
Yeah. What's going on with the autism stuff? What's going on with kids' neurodevelopmental issues? Like, why it should not be taboo to ask questions and leave no stone unturned, right? These are our children. That's our future.
The least controversial thing you can do is work to safeguard children, to make sure that they don't come to harm. It's the least controversial thing you can do. And you know what? If somebody has to just live with their little headache for a little while, you know what I mean?
9 months.
Every day, right? Every day. If it means a better outcome for the child, well, then we should be exploring this. We should be putting a lot of energy into it.
By connecting job seekers to work simulation and training, Work First Alberta helps people change their story.